Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How is everybody? Good evening, Amida. How are you? We are going to be doing walking through the Bible. I know we had revive nights like less than an hour ago, but we got to make sure we get that word out. We are walking through the Bible. My brother, Pastor Frankie, how are you? Praise God. We are going to go ahead and get into this word. We are in Ecclesiastes. I will not be before you long. While I was reading Ecclesiastes, can y'all hear me? Because I got music on. Hey, Eric or Katrina. Yes, see you soon. See you soon. Is the music too loud? I don't know. You probably can hear it. I don't know. It's okay. Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right. I'm good, Amida. It is good to see you as usual. Okay, so we are going to do Ecclesiastes. That is what our reading is. Oh, it's Katrina. Hi, Katrina. We are going to do walking through the Bible. We're going to do Ecclesiastes, chapter 7 to 12, which is actually the end of the chapter, and it of the book, and it's actually written by Solomon, our wise Solomon. It's funny because when I was reading this, when I was younger, I'm a teacher, so I always give a story before I teach. Uh, so when I was younger, we used to do this thing when I was in middle school called reading buddies. And what we would do is we would go and we would sit with senior citizens and we would listen to like their stories. We would read them books. We would play checkers with them, play cards, whatever it was, we would do it. And we had a lot of fun. And reading Ecclesiastes or anything written by, well, we're going to stick to Ecclesiastes. Reading Ecclesiastes is like sitting down with Pop Solomon. So Pop Solomon is full of wisdom. If you ever sit and talk with a senior citizen, they always have like all these little, key things to key things to like little nuggets or little wisdom nuggets that they tell you like along the way. And if you were paying attention, if you got a chance to read it while you were reading this, it was like little sayings that people already say anyway. And you're like, oh, they got that from the Bible. And I'll point out a couple of them as far as what it is. Now, when I was reading this, I read it first in King James, KJV. And when I was reading in King James, I stopped and I said, well, Lord, we're going to go to New Living because I wanted to be a little bit more relatable. And honey, it was. So, all right. So in New Living Translation, chapter 7 starts off and it says, it is wisdom for life. And first of all, we know the history of Solomon is that the thing that he asked for from God was wisdom. So as you walk through anything that he wrote or any messages that he wrote or anything, it's all wisdom on how you should deal with different things, different situations, no matter what it is. He presents you with solutions or wise ways to go through things, which is always very important. So The first verse that I felt like stood out very much so in chapter 7 was verse 5. And it says, "It is better to be criticized by a wise person than to be praised by a fool." Now, I was like, "Whoo, that's good. That's some good stuff right there." Because that's chapter 7, verse 5. The reason why I would say that is because a lot of times, we like to get pats on the back. We like people to say, "Oh, you did a great job. You did a great job." But the truth of the matter is, who's the source of this praise? Is it a hey, teacher Liz? Is it from a wise person, someone you respect, someone who's teaching you something, or is it from somebody who's just saying, "Oh, you did a good job," because they want you to get out their face? So it is better to be criticized by a wise person than to be praised by a fool. And then it goes on to say that verse 7, exhortation turns wise people into fools, and bribes corrupt the heart. Finishing is better than starting, and patience is better than pride. Today, Apostle was preaching and he was talking about patience and endurance. And a lot of times, just to segue off of that, we tend to give up quite fast. If things don't go our way, and if people aren't praising us, and if people aren't patting us on the back, the first thing we decide to do is just to stop and to give up. But this says right here, finishing is better than starting, and patience is better than pride. And sometimes it takes for us just to wait a little bit longer and lay aside that pride of, "Oh, I know he ain't talking to me. Oh, I know she didn't," and continue to endure until the end. And then it also tells us that we need to control our temper, for anger labels you a fool. And we know later in the Bible it lets you know that uh that about anger, and it talks to us about how anger is the root of a lot of things, and it's also the absence of love. So it's very important for us to understand that when we are angry, not to sin, and that and you just control your temper because it makes you look more wise. Just imagine the different times that things happen to us and we like to fly off at the hedges, or fly off on the hinges, or anything like that. It is very important for us to understand that, you know what, the wise thing for me to do is, it says, to be slow to anger, slow to speak. And these are different things. We want to be quick to listen. And now we'll read that later on when we're walking through the Bible. Okay, and then the next verse it says is verse 10. It says, "Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise." And I don't know about you, but I have been caught saying this even recently. Like, man, in the good old days, and Solomon is just saying, look, don't be so stuck on the past. Just, don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. And he goes on and on about a lot of different things. He lets us know that the wisdom that it takes to do the everyday thing is usually the thing, or the wisdom to carry out through our everyday lives is usually the thing that people don't usually take the first pass at. So if we move on to chapter 8, I was, well, first of all, in chapter 8, I was literally blown away. I was sitting here, and one of the verses that I thought was so profound in chapter 8 was verse 16. It says, "In my search for wisdom and my observation of people's burden here on the earth, I discovered that there is ceaseless activity day and night. I realized that no one can discover everything God is doing under the sun, not even the wisest person. Not even the wisest person discover everything, no matter what they claim. A lot of times we feel like we want to answer and have all the answers for the world, and we want to figure everything out and know everything that's going on, and just be able to map out our entire lives. I used to do this. I used to do that exact thing. Everything had to go exactly according to plan. I needed everything to measure out. It needed to go like this. I want to discover everything. I want to know everything. But the truth of the matter is that God's wisdom and God's mind is infinite. And the wisest person that ever walked this earth is saying that even the wisest person can never discover everything from God. And it's important. That should really ease your mind when you feel like you are struggling to understand something and discover it all. It's not even put for it's not even made for us to be able to discover everything. What we have to do as a wise person is listen to counsel. And that was actually in chapter, I want to say 4, when he tells us that we have to listen to counsel and listen to God has put who God has put in place for us, because of the fact that that's where the wisdom will lie. It's not really on us. It's not on us actually at all to know it all. I thought that was a very profound verse for chapter 8. Also, one of the things, another thing that I thought was, oh man, amazing. I'm telling you, I Solomon gave such. I'm telling you, Pop Solomon, because I'm gonna call him Pop Solomon. Pop Solomon gave us so many nuggets. It was so hard to like decide like how many, or which ones, because we only got 20 minutes. So I'm like, which ones do we point out for all of these different chapters and verses? Um, in chapter 8, oh, I'm sorry, in chapter 9, he said, in verse 15, he said, a poor wise man knew how to save a town, and so it was rescued. But afterward, no one thought to thank him. So even though wisdom is better than strength, those who are wise will be despised if they are poor. What they say will not be appreciated for long. But it is better to hear the quiet words of a wise person than the shouts of a foolish king. Better to have wisdoms than weapons of war. But one sinner can destroy much that is good. And it's like, okay, well, Pastor Jamie, why would you even read that? Well, this is why. A lot of times we look at people's stature or their status, and that is what we use to dictate whether or not we can listen to what they have to say. But Solomon is letting you know wisdom can be found in any status. And sometimes the richest person can be the biggest fool. But you're going to listen to them because you feel like that their money qualifies them as wise. But no, that is not what it is at all. A lot of times we have to really understand, this is the reason why the patience and pride comes into play from chapter 8. It's very important for us to understand that wisdom, the Bible goes on to say, even in Proverbs, it said wisdom calls out in the street. Wisdom is there. Wisdom is there. It is there for us to walk this way. It is there for us to move the way we need to. But the truth of the matter is, if you're looking for it to come in a shiny box, you probably are going to miss it. You're going to miss it. You're going to miss it because you're looking for it to come in a way all decorated with big old bowls and a horn section. But this is clearly telling you that wisdom, the wise are despised based on their status. I don't know about you, but I want to be wise no matter what, because it goes on later to say that a wise person knows how to make money because they use wisdom. So of course I'm sitting here and I was just like, it's so ironic that the wisest man, who also ended up being the richest man, he was letting people know that it's not just the rich that are wise, but it's people. You have to be able to invest in people. I'm telling you, Pop had a whole bunch of wisdom for us. Yes, teacher Liz, a whole bunch of wisdom. um it says this is a very funny one. Now this is going to sound very familiar. This is in chapter 10, and it's verse 20. And this talks about gossip, because this is talking about the ironies of life. And it says, never make light of the king, even in your thoughts. Don't make fun of the powerful, even in your old bedroom. For a little bird might deliver your message to them and tell them what you said. Now, I know you ever hear somebody say, oh, it must have been a little bird that tell them. People didn't just make that up. They got it from the Bible. They got it from Solomon. And it's very important for us to make sure that we watch our conversation, and we make sure that we are not gossiping, because a lot of times we get our mouths get us in trouble. And I know that was something that they would tell us when we were teenagers, and you'd be like, oh, you're just trying to tell me to get me to shut up. No, sweetheart, we're trying to give you wisdom. Your mouth got you in more trouble than you needed to be in. So I thought that was funny, because you always hear, oh, the little birdie. It came from the Bible. They didn't come up with that on their own. Pop told them. And then on for chapter 11. Now, chapter 11 had a lot of verses in it, and it was actually hard for me to find which ones I wanted to put out. Um, so I'll start at verse 5. Verse 5 says, just as you cannot understand the paths of the wind, or the mystery of a teeny baby growing in its mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activities of God, who does all things. Like, God does all things. He moves in ways it's hard for us to even fathom. But the truth of the matter is that the evidence of God moving is the wind. The evidence of God moving is the growing of a child in the belly. The evidence of God doing everything is in our lives. The fact that you're breathing, and the fact that you can move, and the fact that you can see your neighbor, the fact that you can hear a child cry, or hear your boss getting on your nerves, is evidence that God is actually still moving. Apostle was just talking about it today, about how we have to have the endurance that we need. That was such a good message. So if you didn't listen, please go listen to the replay, by the way. Okay. So chapter 12, verse 1, it says, don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your creator. Honor him in your youth before you grow old and say life is not pleasant anymore. I have actually heard people say a bunch of times, oh, I don't know what to do with my life. My life is miserable, and everything. And they're complaining about what they do, what they don't have, and how they can't do this, and I can't do this. And if I would have been able to do this, and you're blaming everybody. But the first thing it tells you to do is don't let the excitement deter you and make you forget about your creator. Maybe the problem is that you're forgetting to honor your creator, and that's the reason why you don't like your life. I know that might be a little harsh, but it's the truth. The very first thing that we have to understand is that God is the giver of life. And when we acknowledge him in everything that we do, which is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it lets us know that we have to honor God in everything that we do. Remember now that you're creator in the days of your youth. And maybe that's the reason why you are not happy. Look, we have to understand, and we have to know that God is infinite. His wisdom continues, and it's available, and we have to tap in to everything that he has set out for us. It says in verse 4, to remember him before the door to life's opportunity is closed and the sound of work fades. Now you rise at the first chirping of the birds, but then all their sound shall grow faint. Meaning there is work available. There is things available for us to do. But we have to move. We have to remember God and remember that he opens the doors. You know what that means to me? Because I am a person that have to deal with procrastination. Hello, somebody. Procrastination. The thing is that we have to move at the time that he says, so the doors of opportunity do not go past us. And I know sometimes these wisdom things is like, dang, that's a little that's a little harsh, but it's a wake up call. Pop up is giving us a wake up call. So, yes, again, I'll say it one more time. We have to remember our creator while we are young, meaning while you are still moving. Remember your creator. It's important for us to move and to honor him in everything that we do. So that's where I'm going to end for Ecclesiastes. Remember our Pop Solomon, King Solomon? He was wise, and he even lets us know it's important for us not to despise people in their stature, and it's also important for us to understand that we have to know that wisdom is there and it is available, and that we have to honor him in everything that we do so that we can move forward and go to where we need to go. I pray that you all have a blessed evening. I will actually see you in a couple hours because we have midnight prayer, and I will be there praying with you. All right. I love you all, and I will see you in a couple hours. God bless you.